Hello, Edward. So, before starting off, I would like you to give a brief introduction of yourselves.
Okay, so my name is Edward. I am currently a third year undergraduate BTech student here at IIT Hyderabad. Um, I'm studying CSE and I like competitive programming. I'm involved in a few clubs, mostly in Infero. Currently, I'm also in OCS as a coordinator. And I think that's pretty much it about me. I mainly like CP and I I recently secured an offer to be an intern at Optiver. So I think that's what this is mostly going to be about. But I'm here to share my experience and help out any juniors if possible.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for it. What was your JEE advanced rank? I mean, can you just share what was your JEE journey in a brief?
Okay, so my AIR was 558 in the advanced. Uh, my journey, as far as my journey goes, I think like as far as formal coaching goes, I joined coaching in ninth, but like from ninth we don't really start like proper JE coaching when you join in ninth. It's kind of like you do foundation, so they want you to prepare for like NSEJS, NTSE,
Mm.
smaller exams to kind of build you up to go to JE. So that's what I was also doing. I started in ninth, so I did NSEJS. I didn't really do too well in NSEJS, but it's fine. That was kind of like my first competitive exam. So I learned from it. Then I did NTSC, and NTSC went well for me. And then we moved to 11th. 11th is where kind of JE prep actually started. So, but for us, 11th is also when COVID started. So a lot of things became online. So we didn't have school and things. So I didn't need to take an integrated kind of like dummy school plus coaching program because like school was only uh, 3 or 4 hours for me, and that was online. And then after that, the coaching was also online, so there was no traveling and stuff. So that was pretty fine. I didn't waste too much time in that. Other than that, JEE prep was pretty normal. Most of the time, I just tried to be consistent with it. I don't remember how many hours I used to study. It was definitely a lot
Right.
more than what I'm doing now, but it was definitely a lot more than what I'm doing now. But like
Mm.
other than that, it was pretty okay. It was just like you do the stuff that professors, like the coaching teachers, tell you to do some reference books, not too much. You don't have to do it too much, but and then yeah, the result was pretty much what I expected. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, I would like to get back a bit into your programming journey. So, since you have been doing code forces
Mhm.
since some time, so can you just state that when did you start doing competitive programming, or when did you just get started in the field of programming? When did you first, get introduced to any language, and what was it like?
Okay, so uh, I got introduced to programming like at a very young age because my both of my parents are software engineers, but I don't think I actively like properly programmed till 11th grade. Like when I say properly programmed, I don't mean like CP or anything. I just mean like I knew I suppose I should start at the beginning. So like the first programming language I learned was Python because Python is like among the easiest languages to understand. So I think around sixth or seventh grade, I just knew some basic Python, like how to take input, how to add numbers. I think I made a basic calculator in sixth or seventh grade. That was it. And like till 10th, 11th grade, that was mostly what I knew. I just knew that I can take input, I can do some maths and stuff, and I can print output. I didn't really know any libraries, I didn't know anything else. And that in general is what my programming knowledge was till then. But in 11th and 12th, I was in a CBSE curriculum, so I took computer science as my like fifth subject. So as a part of that, in CBSE, they were still teaching us Python only. So I learned a lot more about Python. Like they taught us about strings, the various string functions, then some data structures like stacks, queues, uh, recursion, all that kind of thing. And like they also asked us to make like one project in 11th grade, one project in 12th grade. So I got like I would say better exposure then as to what coding is. So it's kind of like coding is not a I won't say it's like something you need to know. It's like you just have to build kind of a thought process or like an intuition surrounding it, like a programming mindset kind of thing. That usually takes a year or two to develop. It's not like you just learn a language and you get it. You just need to have the feeling like, okay, you can code something, you can have something automated instead of you doing it yourself. So that's what I feel like. Since I just got exposed to it a bit earlier, I just had that feeling. So when I came to college, I was not like, I didn't know C like before joining college. When I came to college, that's when I started learning C. And
Mm,
C was pretty easy to grasp when you like know some basics from some other languages. It's like obviously much more low level and like much more detail oriented, but like if you know some coding aspects, you can switch to C also. Yeah, so that's pretty much my coding journey before college.
yeah. So, did you participate in some mathematics or science Olympiads back in your school life?
I did. So when I was young, I used to do SOF, but I don't think that that's what you're talking
Yeah.
about. So I did maths Olympiad like RMO and like PRMO. I didn't get to INMO. In ninth and tenth, I was pretty serious about maths Olympiad. Like I would prepare for it like for a month or two before the exam. Uh, Both years I did reasonably okay in RMO, but I didn't qualify for INMO. So in 11th grade onwards, I was like, I shouldn't focus on this. I should probably focus on JEE more. So I stopped attempting those. But I did physics and Chem Olympiads. I didn't do well in physics Olympiad, but I think Chem Olympiad I cleared one of the stages.
Yeah. So,
Olympiads are good for actually building your. It's not like JEE. JEE is kind of like a speed based and also like more templatized questions. Olympiads are more deep thinking. So I would say Olympiad questions are pretty nice. It's different from J. I didn't appreciate it that much back then, but now looking back, I wish I had done a little more Olympiad stuff. So just a reflective kind of thought.
also, like JEE has a kind of fixed syllabus, but
Huh.
Olympiads, you just look over the basic topics and then they just build upon those questions, right?
Right. That is there. Yeah.
Also, I see that you have a streak of over 600 days on Codeforces. So yeah, that's pretty impressive. So I would just
Mhm.
ask, what keeps you, motivated to just keep doing the questions every day? And yeah.
Yeah. So like this is something I say. It's kind of cliche, but it's like it's not always like I want to keep the streak going, right?
Yeah.
Some days it's like the streak exists and I'm not feeling motivated at all, but I know that if I don't code today, the streak won't exist tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I have to like it's like sometimes I like most of the times I like to keep the streak going, like because I'm feeling motivated, I'll code something on that day.
Mm,
But the days when I'm not feeling motivated, the streak keeps me going essentially.
mm,
So because like it's not like you're gonna feel motivated on all days. Like it might even happen that you have exams and like I don't want to code today or something. But like just having a streak means that you should come that day and at least spend 5 minutes on coding an easy problem. Doesn't matter if you're coding anything difficult because you might be busy or something. So it's something like to keep me consistent. So I started doing it in I started actually very early. So since it's been almost 2 years now, I think I started uh, in my first month in college. Like we had an Infero session from our super seniors, and then like we I think like pretty much around then only I started, and then when I got like 7 days streak, I was like, can't lose it now. It'll be too annoying to get back 7 days streak, and then it just kept growing from there.
mm,
So it's a good way to keep yourself consistent, I would say. Like, don't compare streaks and stuff. Back then, I used to see these people had longer streaks. Like, maybe I can try and beat them or something.
mm,
It's not to compare or anything. It's just like as a kind of like a personal barometer. Like, you want to do better than yourself, so you
mm.
will try and improve each day. So just to be consistent and try and improve.
So,
Yeah.
like, what is your current level? Like, there are, candidate master, master level. So, what's your current level in code forces?
Currently, I'm a candidate master. I would say I'm reasonably consistent candidate master,
Yeah.
trying to get to master.
So, yeah. So, whenever you reach a level, you try to move to the next level. So, do you have like a set roadmap that I have to do this much problems, or you just go with the flow that what are the problems you are going? you have that mindset in your mind that if I do these much problems, my rating would increase by this much level, or it just happens with the flow after doing CP for more than 2 years.
right? So it depends on your rating actually. Actually, I wouldn't say depends on your rating. That makes it sound like at any stage, it's and each person is different. So it could be like you're practicing a lot, but your rating is not improving. So the only way to fix this is like you need to have a kind of like systematic practice. It's like if you're practicing uh, let's say board level questions for JEE, you're obviously not going to do as well in JEE, kind of like that.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying like you're practicing, like even if you're practicing like JEE advanced level questions for JEE mains, you might not do well in JEE mains. So you have to practice at pretty much the appropriate level if you're having like a rating target that you want to hit. Uh, so for a while I was doing that. Like more recently, I've not been practicing too much, but that is mainly because of lack of motivation. But like I'm hoping the motivation will come back eventually. But the idea is that you like suppose you're just starting out. Uh, you basically you want to know you need to know like the basics of any language. So suppose you're doing C++ or maybe Python or something, or even C. Just know the basic input output. Start with the lowest rated, like 800, and then like do contests. This is what I tell people. Like I used to do this. Like doesn't matter if I lose rating, I'll just do contests because contests are the most fun part. Like I'm inherently like competitive, and like I like just doing something for 2 hours with other people like also there, and I can see like do I suck or am I somewhat better than them or something like that. So contests are probably the most fun part. Like, and if you do bad, it's not like you're bad or anything. It's just like you have to learn a bit more, and over time you will improve. So practice around your rating or your rating plus a little delta, and then just do contests. So that is enough. Like I guess later, if you'll ask me about resources, I'll just let you know some resources to like read theory. But the theory is kind of secondary. If you do the first thing, it's like over a period of time you'll see like you have a positive slope in rating and this problem solving skill in general.
so it's more like solving problems and then solving the ones you
Right. Yeah. Right. And if you don't get it, you can always refer to the editorial tutorial thing, and they'll always point you to the resources you have to go to. That's what mostly I had been doing. You can also read theory and then do problems. But like these are the two styles. Like my style is kind of the first one. Second style, it works for some topics, like some which are pretty hard to grasp. You can read something first, then do problems. But like it depends on you. Both ways work. So you can do both ways also. But anything works. It depends on from person to person, I
right,
guess.
it depends from person to person. Also, like the club which started you, got you started into CP, you are the head of Infero now. So,
Yeah.
how are you planning? Like, what's the plan for this year? How are you planning to grow the CP culture in the college? And also, we have I think, the annual ICPC competitions. So, how are you, planning to improve the perception of CP in the college? So, what's your plan for
Right.
this?
Yeah. So I think the last few years, in Fero, the CP club has been doing very good work. Uh, like we shouldn't compare just based on rating, but like rating is and like the active community, the number of users who are actively there on all these platforms from our college is like a good way to measure how we're doing. So like if you see our leaderboard on Codeforces or on CodeChef or maybe even Leetcode, you can like Leetcode. It's hard for us to find a leaderboard and look at it,
Mhm.
but uh, like if you just look at the community there, you'll see that we are performing at the level of old IITs now, which is very good. But like we don't want to take it for granted. Also, that's why it's like important that myself and my co-head Saket, we like keep the culture either at the same level or keep it growing. It's important that it shouldn't go down. If it goes down in 1 year, then like it'll just keep going down. So that's not something we want. It's happened before in other domains, and like we don't want it at all. So the way to do this is like you want to reel in the freshers quickly, but also you don't want to make it seem too overwhelming. Right.
Yeah.
So last year, what we did is I think about 1 to 1.5 months into the first semester of the freshers, we took an intro to CP session. But I think it was still a little too soon because, like, most freshers, they come in and they are learning C from ITP, and like they're just learning for loops and arrays, and that's when we come in and we say, look, this is CP, this is C++, this is how you take input, this is how you do for loops. Actually, there's maps and stuff. We try not to introduce maps and things. We only keep it for loops and arrays, but sometimes that also becomes overwhelming. Like, what is an IDE? Why am I using G++? Why am I submitting? What's a TLE? What's a wrong answer? So this year we want to do the same thing, but we want to reduce the content, make it more understandable, more intuitive, and we want to make it much more hands-on. So, like, the first session is what will sell it to the freshers essentially, and like essentially we want to sell it really well so that they will show up to the other sessions. Like, we have an idea that if you show up, we will obviously give you a really good starting point to kind of start your CP journey. But the thing is to reel them in, to not make them feel too overwhelmed. Like, obviously, you can do CP in your second year and still be good. But like I said, the programming mindset kind of takes a while to build. So if you're starting from your first sem, you can't go wrong. Like, it's always better to be exposed to it early on. You can start from second year also, but just to say you learned a bit in your first year, it gives you that confidence in your second year. So I would say we are trying to do sessions. As you mentioned, ICPC. ICPC is one of the most important contests for any person who is enthusiastic about CP. So we are trying to motivate our course, and we're telling our course to motivate freshers to look out for ICPC because ICPC is really fun. It's kind of like a team-based CP event where you're given a set of problems, and it really puts you to the test because, like, JEE is 3 hour exams, right? ICPC is 1 5 hour sitting kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it is pretty grueling, and but it's very fun. Like, especially because if you're doing it with your friends as your teammates. So, like, these are the things we kind of try and tell the freshers. Like, you're in college, you want to get different kinds of experiences. CP is one kind of experience where you learn a lot and you get quite a bit of return for it, and it's also really fun. So that's pretty much the Infero plan: sessions, contests, ICPC, just
Mhm.
grow the culture.
Mhm. Okay, so that's, I mean, thank you for providing so much insights into your journey till now. So now we'll come to the main part of the interview. Like, recently you cracked the intern at Optiver. So
Mhm.
can you share how was the interview experience like? How was the, like, how was the exams like? And then the interview experience at Optiver.
Sure. I'll actually start at the very beginning. So, like, this was, I guess, around July starting. So for us, July starting this year only. So, like, we saw that Optiver is coming to campus. Like, it showed up on the OCS uh, portal. And then, like, we were all like, okay, cool, HFT is coming. There is no way they'll actually take anyone from here. So, like, we were all thinking that because we know, like, Optiver goes to old IITs and things. So even I was like not expecting anything because the way it is like everyone has their own set of accomplishments, but they like compare it with others, and then like automatically yours start feeling a little bit lower than others, right?
Yeah.
When you compare it. So that is there. So no one was expecting it. We were like, okay, we'll prepare, we'll do it. It's good that they're giving us an opportunity so we can learn from it. Yeah, so that was my initial reaction. So then I registered and stuff. Then the first test was kind of called a cognitive test. So they tested a lot of different things based on which role you're applying for. There's two roles in Optiver that they were mainly hiring for. One is kind of a quantitative role. This again has two divisions: trader or researcher, and one is a software role, which is the offer I ended up getting. But I got to the final interview stages for both these roles. So I think I can provide insight on both the roles. So the first round is kind of common for both. It's not exactly common. Like, there's like a 2 hour test, but only a segment of that test is used for software, whereas the whole test is considered for Quant. The test is a cognitive test, so they test a lot of different things like arithmetic, which is like mental math, so like two-digit addition, fractions, uh, I don't know, like small multiplication, not large multiplications. This is in the mental math part. Then they test some kind of logical reasoning. So like you'll be given a sequence and you have to guess the next number, or you're given a sequence and there's a blank. You have to put that in. Uh, and then there's a probability test because like all of trading is inherently probabilistic. You have no guarantees. You want to be able to predict how the market will perform at a given period of time. So they want you to know at least to a basic extent about probability, expectations, random variables, not so much, but if you know it, it's nice. They don't actually ask a lot of complex probability. Like I myself don't know a lot of complex probability frameworks that we learned in like probability courses here. But like if you have a general idea and like you can prove to them that yeah I can learn it if you present me with like a complex problem, that's good enough for them, I guess. So the third segment was probability, and the fourth segment is kind of I call it like it's kind of like an IQ test slash cognitive ability test kind of thing. They'll measure a lot of weird things like they'll give you a pattern. They're like, can you reconstruct this pattern in some way? They'll show you some numbers. Can you match this numbers to some other numbers? And that's all timed, so it's kind of like reaction time. And there's an actual reaction time game where you have to click buttons with your mouse or something like that. So here, this one is kind of hard to prepare for because there's no simulator or anything online. I looked for it. It's just like do your best here. Try and understand the rules. They will give you like to practice. Like there are multiple tests in this small thing. Before each test, they'll give you an instruction and they'll give you like two practice rounds or something. So do use the practice rounds properly for whoever is attempting it, because you don't really have any other opportunity to learn about the game other than in that practice round. So and then like you can't prepare for this round. I would say probability, sequences, and arithmetic. There will be resources online. Like the first few links that pop up when you search these things, you can use those to prepare. But the cognitive kind of thing, that one is kind of yeah, just try your best, and if you are able to do it, it's fine. If you're not able to, that's also fine. You got to interview, you got to take the test of Optiver. I think that's a pretty good experience in general. Okay, so
So,
this was like the first round.
what were the time constraints for this test?
Okay. So uh, I'm not okay. So I know that the total test was like a 2 hour duration, and these four tests were part of it. The the probability test was around 10 questions. Each question had a 90-second timer, and it's MCQs, but there's like six options, I think, not four.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the probability questions were only revolving around like rolling dice or like picking cards or like tossing coins, but and based on expectations. And it's more mental mathy also. Like they will ask you something like, if you roll four dice, maybe some outcome. So you'll have to do 6 to the power 4, and you'll have to do some computations like that, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's not like more based on deep thinking. It's more like okay, I have an expression, I have to calculate it within 90 seconds ish. So that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
The arithmetic thing was 80 problems for 8 minutes. It's actually a very kind of well-known test or something by Optiver. It's called 80 and 8. So you
Okay.
can look it up. There are many simulators for this. So you can practice this. I would advise anyone taking the test to practice beforehand. Um, and the one we had is MCQ based. I think in general also it's MCQ based.
Mhm.
So uh, target, I think a score of 70 is very good. So target 70. I won't say target 65. 65 you can still get through, but don't target 60. Target 70 or 75. That's a very good score. And to practice this, I would say just use the simulator. Maybe if you want, you can learn some tricks, but eventually, if you keep practicing simulator, you will just eventually you'll get to 70, I guess. Last one was the sequences was like 26 sequences for 25 minutes. So
Okay.
around 1 minute per sequence. And the other test, the cognitive test, it's called ZAPN. That one, each game had its own time. There were like 9 mini games in that one test. So they call this stuff games. Like as I explained the other process for Quant, you will realize why it's kind of game based. So yeah, they try to test different cognitive aspects of a person based on like games or like test kind of thing. So it's like it doesn't feel like you're being tested, but there are a lot of metrics for them to assess, like your speed, your thinking ability, your clarity of thought, your risk taking ability, all that stuff. So that's like the time constraints. This was like the first round. This was probably the most interesting round. As we go forward, it'll become more streamlined and more like what other companies ask.
Yeah.
But this round was, oh, okay, I forgot one more thing. There was a small, like, other test also part of this first round. It's kind of like a questionnaire, like MCQ based. It's a kind of like an HR round, but with MCQs. So they'll ask you about your personality, and there'll be a lot of MCQs, and then you just have to tick them. Yeah, that's also there. That's it was just there. It doesn't feel like, but I read in some Reddit post that they disqualify based on this round. Also, I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's true, but like this round is also there. There's no need to prepare for it, but just do it and like be as honest as possible because there'll be something like suppose you mentioned your you have this trait A in in like question number one and you have this trait B in question number two. Question number 10 could be is are you better at A or are you better at B? And then if you mark A, the question number 15 could be you're better at A. So why are you not that good at like there'll be some other
Yeah.
question relate like
So
it all
the questionnaire
relates.
will be dynamic, like based on your
Yeah.
responses. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. So it is dynamic and there's a lot of questions in that. Like I think I had at least 40 MCQs in that question. It was all dynamic. So it is fun. Like you like after seeing this test, like I also wrote the test for Google and Goldman. This one felt like very different. Like it's not like the conventional kind of thing. It is fun to write the test. Like it's not that fun if I mean anyway, it's fine. It was fun. That's all I'll say.
Hmm.
Okay, so this was the first round. This was probably the biggest round. That's why it took a lot of time to say to explain what is there. The other ones are fairly generic. Uh, so this is the first round for quant. Like after this, they'll tell you whether you're selected for the next round of quant or not. For SWE, there's like one more round, which is a coding round. It's like a normal generic coding round, but
Hmm.
only difference is there is it's very low on DSA. It's more like object oriented based implementation.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're given a CP problem or a DSA direct problem. You're given a problem, but it's like fairly straightforward. I would say what you have to do. Like you have to take some input, and then okay, there was something I don't know the exact problem, but it was like you have to take some inputs, and then you have some users you can register. You have to take these users also as inputs, and then you're given some characters, and you have to deliver each character to a particular user based on some time or something. So like when you see this stuff, you can kind of figure out, okay, you just need to store it and you just need to keep delivering. But how do you store it? How do you design this in a object-oriented manner?
Yeah.
That is kind of what they're testing, right?
Yeah.
So here I would say just no object-oriented programming because for SWE it is a must. They test this in pretty much all the rounds. They you can use either Python or C++. I used Python because I was more comfortable in it for object oriented. But like I don't think they care. Like I was actually kind of scared about using Python because like I know that in HFTs and all you have to be they want low latency. With low latency is often associated with like C and C++.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Python is considered kind of slow, but I don't think they minded. Like they were okay with me using Python, so it's not a problem. But I would say do learn object oriented. Even if you don't know like the theory, like what is polymorphism, what is abstraction, if you know how it works
Implementation
in
would be,
if you know how to implement and how it works in practice, and your code is reasonably clean, they're cool with it, I think. Yeah, that was so here there were three questions for, I think, I'm not sure, I think it was 1.5 hours or something like that. So uh, just try to make, I would say, more than obviously getting the samples to pass is important, but make your code readable and don't use variable names that you would use in CP. Like in CP, we use like N, A, B, C. These are our normal variable names. Like if you're making an array for storing names of people, call it names or name array or something like that. And like use consistent casing. Like if you're using name underscore array, don't use ages capital A array in the next. So these kind of things, I don't know if they matter, but like I guess they might matter because I try to keep these things in check. Yeah, so that was the SW round, second part of the first round. So after this, the shortlists came, and somehow I guess because I did okay in the rounds, I also felt like I did okay, so I got shortlisted for both the second rounds. The second round is, they called it a GD. GD means like group discussion, but it's not really a group discussion. It's like a one-on-one only. But it's like a test which a person is administering. So it's like kind of an interview, but they don't like they don't do back and forth and all. It's just like they'll ask you a question, they want an answer, and like they'll ask you to explain a bit. It's kind of interactive, but not as much as an interview. It's like they want you to do a test, but like they can gauge whether you're cheating or not, right? If a person is just interviewing you face to face. And all of this is online, by the way. All of it is on Zoom. Like no part of my process was offline because I think it's tough for them to come here and like go to all campuses. Even though they have an India office, it's not possible for them to do it at this point in time. So all of the process was online for me. Yeah, so this was the thing. So the second round for quant was again a cognitive probability assessment. Before the round, they gave us a PDF. The PDF had like some things, basic things we can learn. Like the main things they stressed upon was know basic probability, like know about cards, know about dice, know about coins and expectations. And then one other important thing is know about the basics of market making. So, like, what is market making? Optiver, other than being a high frequency trading firm, it's also something like in finance, you call it a market maker. So it's kind of like in the market, you have people who buy and you have people who sell, right? So there could be inconsistencies in a person's buying price and another person's selling price. So like if these prices don't match exactly, the trade not will not necessarily execute because you need a buyer and a seller for a successful trade. So like a firm like Optiver might come in and see that okay, there's this slight gap here. So can I make a profit off this gap? So like they might like decide to sell to the buyer and buy from the seller and provide liquidity or like fill this little gap and maybe in turn make a profit. So like essentially this bound here is what they wanted us to kind of think about, like make a market is what they wanted us to think about. So like how does this tie in with the interview? What they asked me is like, okay, I'll just tell you a question. I don't know if I can tell you exactly what they asked me. I don't know if there's some bound. I'll ask you like a related question. It's kind of the same only. So uh if I toss uh let's say 5 coins, what is the probability that I'll get maybe 3 heads? Let's just say this. Make a market around this probability. When I say make a market, I want you to give me like an upper bound on the answer and a lower bound on the answer. And like if your answer lies within this upper bound and lower bound, you will get a score, and your score will be your lower bound by your upper bound. So suppose I told you, since we know it's a probability, we'll know it'll obviously lie between 0 and 1. Let me just say the answer is suppose 0.5 or whatever, and I will I don't know if it's point 0.5. It's probably not, but let's just say it is that. And let me guess 0.4 and zero point 0.8 as my lower and upper bound. So if I get it right, my score will be zero point 0.4 by zero point 0.8, which is zero point 0.5 for that round.
Mhm.
So like that, you can keep calculating. Like there'll be 5 rounds like this, and in each thing, they want you to guess some like give like obviously you don't have to directly guess, and like you might say, why do I have to guess here? Like I can just calculate it. The thing is, some of them are calculatable. I don't know if it's a word, but like calculatable. Some of them are very vague. So and also they it's time bound. So like each one you might get 1 minute to 90 seconds. So you have to like think out loud, reason your thoughts, tell them what you're doing, and then present a market lower and upper bound to them, and they'll tell you the final answer. If it's within that range, you get your points. Otherwise, you get zero, and then you have to keep adding it to your score. And then at the end, they'll. I don't think the score matters actually. They told us like after the 5 rounds, if your score is greater than equal to 2, you win. Otherwise, you lose. So apparently, like the way you're supposed to approach this round, the way you're supposed to approach this round apparently is go for a zero point 0.5 score in each round or something. So across 4 rounds, you would have met your two criteria, and one round is just for buffer in case something goes wrong, like in case your guess goes out of bounds. But like, let me tell you, it's not it's not that easy. Like one of the things I was asked is like, what is the longest time? Like, what's the world record for a breath hold underwater? Give lower and upper bound. So I just put like 5 minutes and 15 minutes or something because at that point I was pretty close to getting to two. I was like 1.67. The answer was 24. So I
Oh,
kind of failed. Yeah, 24 minutes. So I kind of failed. I mean, I didn't get to the 2 cup barrier that they had, but like as I said, I don't think the score matters. It's just like you want to.
like you,
They want to see a thought process. They want to see if you can talk, and they want to see if you can. Sorry.
yeah, so like the important part might be for them, like you communicate with them what you're thinking, and that might be, more important than getting the barrier over to, might be. Yeah.
Right. Right. Exactly. That's exactly right. Second part of this round was again 5 more probability questions, but they were uh, just asked like word to word, like instead of being on paper. So another thing to notice, this round is like they say they don't allow you to use any kind of pen and paper. It should all be mentally done. Like for them, this is kind of like one thing I noticed with Optiver is like they just want you to do everything in your mind. I don't know why, but like yeah, there are some other firms which care more about like how deep do you go into a problem, but for an intern level at Optiver, you have to like do mental stuff. That's what they care about for these interviews at least. So this was the quant round. Then the software round is more or less same, like one-on-one interactive coding, but like in an object-oriented manner. So same thing. They gave me a question, and then they didn't give me a question exactly. They gave me an input output. So they showed me like, okay, there is this class. Class is completely empty, but the functions are there. And like, so if I call this function, this is my output. If I call this function, this is my output. So there's like 10 lines of input output. Then like, guess what the class is trying to do or the function is trying to do, and then code it according to that. So this is kind of interactive. You ask the interviewer if you want this or you want this,
Mm.
code it. And after that, there were like a few follow-ups. Like he told me, so essentially what you coded is called some kind of scheduler or something. So then he asked me, where might you use the scheduler in kind of like a trading environment? And eventually he asked me, how would I improve performance? I said, maybe you can use something like that. And then that ended. So this one was not that tough, I would say. Uh, and this was the round two whole process for both quant and software. After that, after this was like the set of final interviews. So after this, I realized I was selected for both the rounds. The final round. Final round is a
So,
series of.
how many people were
Huh,
shortlisted for the interview rounds?
sure. Okay, so out
Like
of all the
total
people who
number.
applied,
Uh,
huh, so like I would say I'll tell you from the starting. So like net, I think in our year only CS, MNC, and electrical and EEIC design were eligible, and the double majors of these. I don't know. Maybe next year, I think they were planning for AIES, I guess. I'm not sure, but I think that might happen. So around 100-ish people were eligible, I guess, and they had a CG bar of 8. I'll talk about CG further as well. It's not as important as you might think, but okay. Then they had a CG bar, so around 100 people maybe were eligible in the start. Uh, After the first rounds, they took, I think, 7 people for yeah, 8 people for software uh, GD round or the one-on-one round,
yeah.
and around 20 people for quant one-on-one round.
Okay. The cognitive round, I
And
guess.
sorry,
The cognitive round for Quant.
cognitive ka one-on-one round, yeah.
Okay.
And after the one-on-one rounds, they shortlisted 7 people from quant for final interviews and 4 people from SWE for final interviews, and 2 people were common in the list. So myself and one of my classmates from CS was common in both the lists. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then that was pretty much it. So like it is a pretty coveted firm. So you can assume that they will be pretty strict about their criteria. So the numbers are like, it's kind of expected that they will take less people only. But so that was that, and the final rounds again. SW first round was kind of same as the one-on-one round. Interactive coding, object oriented. The only difference was the question was much harder. Like I don't know, I saw the question and then it's in like a hacker rank thing, and it's like interactive. So both you and the interviewer, like cursors will be there on the IDE. But
Mm.
the question, like it's on a left window. Like the question was so long, I had to scroll through it, and like there were so many different functions. It's kind of hard to read and all, but it took me like 10-15 minutes to clarify and understand the question. But ultimately, it didn't matter. Like it's about how like the questions you ask, like if you're able to implement it somewhat okay. And okay, one more thing I should mention this: they don't run your code, they don't compile your code. Since there's a person like in these interview kind of rounds, since there's a person like who's a software engineer there who's there to check it, they just want to see if you can like in the moment can you like write the code, you know the syntax. If there's some small issue, they don't care. Like if it's like suppose you are going out of bounds by one, if he notices it, he'll bring it up. Like in one of my implementations, I kind of had an infinite loop. He brought it up. I was like, oh, okay, we can fix this by doing that. So it's not, they don't care. So essentially, they don't care about like compiling and all. Just uh, get the logic somewhat reasonable.
Yeah. So, how long did this interview last for the SWE role, right? This was for the SWE role.
Mm, right.
Yeah. So, how long did
So
this interview last?
the okay, so the one-on-one rounds were around 40 minutes each for both Quant and SW. And on final day, the interviews, I had two SW interviews, one Quant interview, and one common HR interview. So 4 interviews in one day. The SW round one was about, like, each of them was supposed to be around 1 hour, and they pretty much were that length only. HR was, I think, a bit shorter for me, around 45 minutes, but they're expected to be 1 hour, the final round interviews. One thing to note, I'll tell you here, is the SW round two, where they checked system design. So that is something I would definitely recommend that people like look up. You don't have to know a lot, but like I think there's some 1 hour video by Free Code Camp on YouTube, which is like basic system design. and then you can look up like some uh, I don't know, it's not like high level system design. It's like it's kind of like abstract. Like, and then there's also videos on YouTube which are like, how would you rebuild Spotify? Like, what's the system behind Spotify? Like, there'll be some kind of videos like that. Just watch one or two of those, and you'll get some general idea about what a front end is, what a back end is, what a web server is. You just need to know some terms. It's not very. They don't want you to go too much into detail.
Okay.
Uh,
Also, your
so that
interview
is
rounds,
there, and
uh, like were they resume based? Like
yeah.
did they grill you on your resume, or were they fixed that we have to ask questions from this topic and this topic, or were it more resume based? Like what was your
Uh,
resume?
the technical things weren't like resume based at all. Like the for the quant and the software interviews, they asked me nothing from my resume. But for the HR round, it was like they had an HR person and a technical person sitting with the HR person. So it's like two people. So
Hmm.
the HR person asked me things from my resume, and if I was saying anything technical, the technical person would jump in and ask me follow ups based on that.
Okay.
So so they asked me about my internship and they asked me about my club work. They didn't ask me about CP. I was kind of hoping they would ask me about CP, but they didn't ask me about CP. So sad life, but it's fine. So in HR round, they asked me about mostly HR stuff only, but occasionally it went into technical, like very little, like maybe 20% of HR round was kind of technical. They asked me about what I did at my internship, what I learned, interpersonal skills mostly, my club work. They didn't ask me about courses. They didn't ask me about CP. They also didn't ask me about projects, which I kind of found interesting. I actually read online prior to the interview that finance companies and HFTs they don't really care too much about projects because like unless it's a finance based project, it's not very relevant to them. Something like that. Because like if you're going to be coding mostly in C++ and all, like I didn't have any project related to finance. I made like some website. I had some course projects. That's the stuff I put. They didn't ask me about it, so that is there.
Yeah.
Uh,
You mentioned,
other than go on.
yeah, I mean, you mentioned that you also did a internship. Like, did you do in the second year? And also, what was the nature of your role? And did it help, like,
Okay,
in the long run?
right. I would say it helped a lot. So the real reason I did this internship, like okay, so how I got it was like around my fourth sem, I was like I need to do something in the summer, otherwise I will be lazy and stuff, and I won't get much done. So I started applying like off campus on LinkedIn and all. I didn't get any responses. It was kind of disheartening. So if that happens to anyone else as well, it's like fine. I think that's just how it works. It's hard to get off campus, and in second year it's much harder. So eventually, like through my network, I ended up getting a role in some small company. I was not too like it was not anything glamorous or anything, but like by the end of the internship, I was very happy that I did it. So I was involved in like a DevOps role, not DevOps. It's like dev and DevOps. I did some dev, I did some DevOps. DevOps is like maybe mostly what I did was related to cloud operations. So I did a little bit of Kubernetes. I did some. A lot of my work was relating to Amazon Web Services, and I was coding most of the time in Python and or using Linux shell script. So like this in general like helped me a lot because the thing is like you work like in while you're in college you're learning a lot of things and like you're learning stuff through courses, you're even involved in clubs and you're actively like learning, but like you're not applying a lot of times, right?
Correct.
You're not applying what you've learned. Like the only places you can actively work on a project are like if you're in Lambda you can work on a Lambda project. That's a very good thing to do. I was not involved in Lambda, so I didn't have it unfortunately. You don't have to do an internship. I will say this: if you have anything equivalent to an internship, like some club work where you built a project, or maybe some work under a professor where you like delivered some kind of code that achieves some utility, or something else like research internship, anything like that. So just that can help you a lot because not just for your resume, but also for like your own confidence and like for like you'll gain a lot of things out of it. Like I gained interpersonal skills. I learned actually what software engineers actually do. How do you build code in staging and how does it get pushed to production? What is code review? What is like the hierarchy in a company? All that stuff. It's hard for us to know as like students, but like when you intern, you get to know a lot of things. So it helped me a lot. And one really good benefit I had was like the dev I was working under, whom I was reporting to, he happened to be like a solutions architect or a system architect. So essentially, he did system design for a living, but like at a very high, very good level. Like the project I was working on, he designed that entire system. So in like our weekly meetings, he would explain some small component. So I indirectly learned a decent amount of system design. So that's why I think my interview went pretty well there.
Mhm.
So
That's a good point.
that, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's it for the interview till now. So also, lastly, I would ask you a question. What are your future plans? Like after IIT, are you pursuing any PG like masters or PhD or PhD is a far shot, but anything you are in further
Uh,
studies if you're interested.
Currently, I am not like especially after my like industry exposure now. I think I prefer working like because I've been here for like we've been here for 2 years, right, in college. And like I like studying, but the thing is like eventually it kind of feels like I'm studying so much, but like I need to get some feeling like whatever I'm studying, I'm using it as well. So I do want to work at least for after I graduate, my plan is to just work for at least a few years. And based on that, I want to see where to go. I'm not planning to do an MS or something, at least not right now. And after maybe I work for 2 or 3 years, depending on how I feel, I might do an MBA. I don't know. That's not on the books right now, but it's just an option that I'm keeping open. PhD, no, I don't think so. Probably never happening
Okay.
unless like I want to really get good at a domain. I don't think I will be going for a PhD. MS also not likely, but yeah, I'm mostly keen on working because like IITH and like any IIT in general, like you learn a lot more things than a lot of people learn in 2 degrees put together. So there really is no reason to feel compelled to do another degree when you can go into the industry and contribute at the level of a person with 2 degrees. So I would say that's my plan for now.
So yeah, that's it for the interview. So yeah, thanks a lot, Andrew, Edward, for giving your time. And yeah, you were quite descriptive today. Everything, your experience, you shared nicely.
Yeah,
So yeah,
actually, that is one thing I would say. Like communication skills, I don't know, but like try to when you're talking with an interviewer, just it's not like you have to be. You don't. I mean, you have to obviously be formal. You don't have to be informal, but like try to stay as calm and like chill, but not like cool. Not you want to be chill, but you don't want to be like weird about it, right? You want to try and be expressive, and you want to try and make them get your point of view, and you want to make it seem like you're having fun, and you're also being serious about what they're asking you. So communication skills is definitely if you have it, it's a big plus. And if you don't have it, join clubs and stuff. Like when I came here, I was pretty much an introvert. I'm still kind of introverted, but like if you join clubs, it will really like it or not, you will be a better communicator by the end of your tenure as a core or head or whatever. So that is one thing. That's one more point. It's like a combination of factors. It's not like you're trying to mold yourself to fit a company's bar. It's like if you check enough boxes that they have, they'll be glad to take you. Like most people from IITH will be assets to companies. So
yeah.
like if you're adding more skills you can provide to them, they'll be pretty glad to take you. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
So lastly, I would ask you, like you have been pretty much good at CP. So for any person who is starting at CP or who is going through rough patch in CP, he's not, able to do very much questions in the contest. So what are some resources which you yourself refer to, and what are some tips which you can give to a person who is, just starting out or going through a fashion CP?
Yeah, okay. This is a good question because I think a lot of people are misguided or have no guidance. So
Okay.
I think first thing is like if you're from IITH, like be involved with Infero people or just like I wouldn't say just Infero people, like anyone who even knows people from Infero, they also and they're also doing CP, they'll also know because like your seniors are probably the best people to ask or like your friends who do CP. Because like you can go online and you can search for roadmaps, but those they don't know your circumstance and they don't know that every person is different. They'll just say some template. It may work or may not work. If it works, it's nice, but like you don't want to have to experiment and all, right? So just ask a senior. Like it's very likely that uh, like myself or a senior or anyone has faced the same issue that you have at some point in time. That's the first thing. And the other thing, like how to start, is like I said, you want to solve problems and you want to do contests. It's like called competitive programming because the competitive part is very important. Like like you will actually begin to feel the thrill of it. Like it's like you're playing football or something, or like basketball because I used to play basketball and like you can like keep like shooting baskets and stuff, but is that really fun? It's not fun until you play a match, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Like you won't just solve problems. It's not fun until you do a contest. So like you want to do that. So do contests, practice problems. If you're feeling to like if you're feeling like you're stagnating a bit, start upsolving. I actually start upsolving from the start itself because upsolving is a very good practice. Upsolving means like I did this contest, I solved only A. I'm not happy with my performance. I think I should look at how to solve B. So I'll try it for a bit. Okay, I didn't get it. Let me just look at the tutorial. Okay, there's something new here that I can learn. Let me just refer to it and learn it. So if you keep doing this over like 10 to 15 contests, you will see like a very good improvement in your skill. It takes a certain amount of discipline to upsolve and be consistent, but like it's like the first month hurdles. Like when you start being consistent, eventually it'll become like second nature to you. You won't be too worried about it. And as you'll keep upsolving after every contest, and then you'll see the positive slope. Like sometimes you'll have like like slightly lower slope than some other people. You may be growing slower, but as long as it's positive, I think you should be happy about it because like shows that you're putting in effort and you are improving. That's like what I see because every semester I'm happy to see that like my average rating is going up though sometimes I fluctuate, but like on average it's still positive, so I'm happy about that. And resources, there are Codeforces has some educational section. It's called EDU. There's a tab on Codeforces for EDU. That one is good, but like Codeforces blogs are kind of like they might feel a bit intimidating at first. So I would say don't go for them directly. You can learn from editorials is my main thing, but there's something called Guide. Like India has some Olympiads, like Math Olympiad, Computing Olympiad, and all. USA has a USACO, which is USA Computing Olympiad. So they have compiled a set of algorithms, like a template essentially. It goes from like I think bronze, silver, gold, platinum. So start at the lowest one and slowly you can start moving up. They'll teach you the basic algorithms like greedy, DP, graphs. It'll be more basic than that, but they'll go in a pretty nice way. Uh, I think these are the things mostly that myself and like my friends and I used. Other than that, there's really not much that's needed. You don't have to be too, I would say, obsessed or too. It's not like you need multiple references. It's like you need one reference and you need to do it well, or you don't need any reference and you just learn from the problems and their editorials and like have a friend to possibly do CP with or have like a community. That's what Infero is. If you have a community, you'll notice on average everyone is getting better.
Yeah.
That's why the culture and the club is also important. So those are the main things surrounding CP. And like I will also say that like don't underestimate the power of certain things. Like I when I started in first sem, I was like, I'm just doing this for fun. I obviously knew it had some benefits, but like I'm very happy right now that I started when I did
Yeah.
because it's not like maybe it doesn't have any direct benefit. Like if like suppose you did it and you didn't get to a rating barrier that you're happy, but like internally it has a lot of benefit because like you feel like, oh, I was not so good at this. I'm happy I took it up and I got better than what I was before. You'll feel that inside you first. That's one thing. Then you'll also feel like at least I have something I can put on my resume. Like, and you'll also have improved on code on like your coding skills and all those things. So internally, it does a lot for you. And if you have something you can put that's worth putting on your resume, that's like multiple pluses, right? So that
Yeah.
is that's
That,
the thing.
that's that. Thanks for the very good advice at the end. Uh, that's it for the interview. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.